Thank you so much for the floor. And dear ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, today we gather here not only to commemorate the 35th anniversary of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, but to honor a legacy, a shared Central European legacy of placing children at the hearts of our societies. And this is not merely a milestone, it is a reflection of a collective mindset that has shaped our legal and cultural landscapes for generations. In Central Europe, the concept of child protection is deeply rooted in the idea of community, of tradition, and solidarity. So from the earliest codifications of family law to the modern integration of international principles, our countries have consistently recognized the vital role of children in shaping our future. And this common understanding has driven us to strive for a very strong legal framework that upholds the dignity, the safety, and the best interests of every child, regardless of their circumstances. And it is within this context that today's conference holds such a profound significance, bringing together legal experts, practitioners, advocates, and gathering all of these experiences exemplifies our shared commitment to advancing children's rights across borders. But it is not just the discussions that we hold today that matter, it is the legacy that we leave behind. And this legacy is embodied, for example, in the books that we are presenting today, written with the intention of being much more than just academic texts. They are blueprints for action, bridges between the scholarship and the practice, and guides for a generation of legal minds that are dedicated to the cause of children's rights. And these works, including our book, Children's Rights in Private Law, where I had the privilege of contributing with a chapter on children's rights in Slovakia, reflect the intellectual and the moral resolve of this region to secure a better future for its youngest citizens. And I believe that the strength of Central Europe lies not only in our shared history and our shared values, but also our shared vision for the future. And when it comes to our children, our vision has always been clear, that they are not only individuals with rights, but the very foundation of our societies. And it is with this conviction that we continue to build legal systems that protect, that nurture and empower them. And as we proceed through this conference, albeit we are close to the very end, we have to recognize that what we achieve here today through these scholarly contributions, through these books that we have published, will resonate beyond these walls. It has the potential to inspire, inform, and drive the evolution of child protection. And I really hope that not only in Central Europe, but also other parts of the world where children are in need. So now, a little secret from behind the scenes. We have spent months preparing these books, these publications. And when I opened the chapter last night, before preparing for the conference, I opened my own chapter, seeing what I wrote. I realized that I wrote almost 70 pages. And not sure what I was thinking, but I was probably hoping for someone to stay with me throughout these 70 pages and pay attention to what I have to say. So apparently I was expecting, someone's undivided attention for 70 pages. Fortunately for you, today we do have a time limit, 15 minutes. So since it is only 15 minutes, I am just going to cherry pick some of the key elements of child protection in Slovakia. So as we look at the child protection frameworks of Slovakia, we find a system that is deeply intertwined with the nation's history, with the values, with the culture, and of course, Central European values as well. This framework reflects a deliberate and evolving effort of aligning domestic law with international legal standards while maintaining a uniquely Slovak perspective on the care and protection of children. So one of the most significant milestones in the commitment of children's rights that Slovakia has demonstrated throughout the years was the ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1993. And this foundational treaty, which outlines the comprehensive rights of children and the responsibilities of states to uphold them, has profoundly shaped Slovakia's legal and policy framework. Slovakia has also submitted periodic reports to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, demonstrating transparency and accountability in its efforts to meet the Convention's obligations, although I must say that some of the reports have been a little bit superficial, but hopefully that's something that we can improve in the future. Now, to further bolster the implementation of the UNCRC, Slovakia has ratified its optional protocols, which address critical issues such as the involvement of children in armed conflict or child prostitution and the sale of children. And Slovakia has also ratified the third protocol, which is the least ratified protocol to date. So all of the protocols of the UNCRC have been ratified by Slovakia. Now, these protocols have been incorporated into domestic legislation and resulted in stringent codes, criminal codes, and other laws that protect children from exploitation and abuse. For example, our criminal code ensures that perpetrators of child trafficking, abuse, or exploitation can be prosecuted under the universality principle, regardless of where the crime occurred. Additionally, Slovakia is the signatory to the Hague Convention on the Protection of Children and cooperation in respect of inter-country adoption. And this convention establishes guidelines for the ethical and transparent adoption processes, prioritizing the child's best interest in cross-border adoptions. Now, Slovakia has designated the Center for International Legal Protection of Children and Youth as the central authority responsible for overseeing inter-country adoptions, ensuring the compliance with the Hague standards. Now, at the regional level, Slovakia supports the Council of Europe strategy for the rights of the child, which emphasizes child participation and prevention of violence and access to justice. I also want to mention the role of the Commissioner for Children, whom you could have met at the conference yesterday and today. But the Commissioner for Children was established under Act number 176 from the year 2015, and it exemplifies Slovakia's commitment to monitoring and enforcing international child's rights standards. It is an independent body that investigates violations, promotes awareness, and ensures that the principles enshrined in international treaties are upheld in Slovakia's domestic context. And finally, from our international commitments, I just want to mention our cooperation that extends to our participation in global reporting and monitoring mechanisms. So, for example, I want to mention our engagement with the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly the goal to end abuse, exploitation, and trafficking and all forms of violence against children. I think we can say that Slovakia has demonstrated its alignment with global objectives for child protection. Now, when it comes to the domestic framework, let's look at that, because I think that's probably the one that's most interesting, although, of course, our international commitments have shaped that domestic framework. Now, when it comes to our domestic framework for child protection, I think it's very comprehensive, and it is rooted in constitutional principles, in statutory laws, and of course in judicial practices. They reflect our nation's commitment to upholding children's rights through very strong legislation and effective implementation mechanisms that are tailored to address the unique needs of children within the jurisdiction. Now, constitutional safeguards. At the core of the legal framework is our Constitution of the Slovak Republic, which enshrines the protection of children as a fundamental value. Especially Article 41 in paragraph 1 guarantees the special protection of children and adolescents, mandating the state to prioritize their welfare in all policies and provisions. These constitutional guarantees establish a foundation where, for subsequent legislative and administrative measures that are designed to safeguard children's rights. Then, of course, I think the most important piece of legislation when it comes to children's rights is our Family Act from the year 2005, which serves as a cornerstone of our child protection framework in private law, because it comprehensively governs all family relations, emphasizing the best interest of the child as the guiding principle in all matters affecting them. Now, the best interest of the child was codified explicitly in Article 5, and it was amended in 2016. This principle ensures that all decisions about children are not only individualized, but take into account different factors such as the child's safety and stability, their mental, physical, and emotional development, their relationship with their parents, siblings, and other close individuals, the child's views and opinions, particularly to avoid loyalty conflicts. So this is a very flexible approach to the best interest principle, which ensures that each child's unique circumstances are considered in every single legal decision. I want to mention also parental responsibility and custody. Parental responsibility, as it is defined under our Family Act, encompasses the rights and duties of parents to care for their child's upbringing, health, and overall development. In Slovak family law, both parents are considered equal in these responsibilities, ensuring the non-discrimination of parental roles. The Act also provides detailed provision for custody and visitation rights in cases of divorce or separation, prioritizing the arrangements that foster the child's emotional well-being and maintain the relationship with both parents wherever possible. Of course, mediation and collaborative parenting plans are encouraged to reduce the adversarial nature of disputes. I also want to touch on child participation very briefly. Our framework, our legal framework, recognizes the evolving capacities of children, granting them a voice that matters in all decisions that have the potential to impact their lives. So children's views are considered in family law proceedings, particularly when determining custody and visitation agreements. And while our Family Act does not set a rigid age threshold, legal practice often considers children in general as young as 12, but even younger, capable of forming an informed opinion on decisions that have the potential to affect their lives. So this reflects a broader principle of respect for the child's dignity and autonomy that is enshrined in both domestic and international law. Now, when it comes to education and social services, mandatory education in Slovakia is compulsory for all children beginning the age of 6 and spanning 10 years. For some, seemingly very, very long. For some, of course, not enough. But it is a critical component of Slovakia's child protection framework. It not only promotes the intellectual development, but also serves as a protective measure against exploitation, such as child labor, for example. Social services play a crucial role in Slovakia in supporting vulnerable children and families, and child welfare agencies have also an important task to intervene in cases of neglect and abuse, providing temporary care and facilitating family reintegration wherever possible. However, of course, there are challenges that remain, ensuring these services are adequately funded and accessible across all regions, and I think that's the biggest shortcoming. One of the most important recent legal developments that I would like to mention is the 2016 amendment of our Family Act, the Family Act from 2005, and it is the amendment that expanded the principle of the best interest of the child and provided judges, provided courts with certain guidelines and kind of make sure that we avoid generalization in judicial decisions. It has provided courts with a map, a guideline on how to examine the best interest of the child, which is unique to each and every child. Now, of course, there is a lot to celebrate in terms of successes, but there are still a lot of opportunities for improvement. So on this slide, I have the strength and the limitations, but I do see the time is coming up very quickly. So just a few concluding thoughts. I kind of imagined 15 minutes to last much longer. Yes, I know. But maybe a few things for the very end. You know, I have also prepared a few numbers because, you know, behind all of these numbers there are children, their lives that matter, that are important. I think, you know, these numbers, as you can see, they tell us there is so much more to do. There are so many children that are impacted by poverty. There are so many children that are impacted by violence. And for every child that is reintegrated into their family or placed into foster care, there is another one that is waiting for the same chance. For every law that we have passed, there is a responsibility to ensure that it is implemented with compassion and integrity. And I think that is where private law transcends legal theory and becomes a force for equity and justice. Today, as we celebrate 35 years of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, I think we have to recognize the profound opportunity that we have. Together, we must strive for a legal system that does more than just protect, it must empower. And it must enable every child to grow, thrive, and reach their full potential, regardless of the circumstances that they were born in. So let us leave here with this conference with renewed energy, not just to continue our work, but to elevate it, because when we protect children, we are not just ensuring justice, we are shaping a future where every child can look forward to a life of dignity, opportunity, and boundless possibility. Thank you so much for your attention.